Hockey Nation fans, welcome back to the Hockey Nation live show with Coach Frenchy directly from the booth. And we have to go directly to the West Coast, California, to find someone somehow on Newport Beach, Michael Devellano. Welcome back, Michael, for another great day.
Thanks, Pierre.
We have a
exciting day in hockey.
It's not many news, but great thing to talk about today. We're going to jump. We know we are already on the 31 days, 31. It's on a marathon, 31 days, 31 different team, and today we are going to talk about the Philadelphia Flyers. So it'll be very interesting to see that. We know the struggle, during the playoff with the big name, Giroux and those guys did not, connect. Is it what connect me?
Yep, Travis Konechny.
Yeah. So some of them did not perform well, but we find a couple of players like the rookie Carter Hart and the defenseman. I think the defensemen deserve more. We're always talking about Quinn Hughes. We're always talking about Cam McCord. Those guys like Ramus Dallin, but we forgot him for the Flyers. I believe you can be in the discussion with the rest of the league right now with Zeph Jones, everything like that. So
Provorov.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So yep. So I think we're going to be very interesting to get your insight about this team this morning. Flopping around, you have nothing news around breaking news a lot in NHL. No signature at least until 9 o'clock this morning. Nothing happening around there. The big discussion is happening. I don't know if you follow a little bit, but the the salary cap, not a salary cap, the discussion for the next upcoming season. The owners of NHL request an additional 13% deferred money for the players for the upcoming season.
3-0, right? 30.
13%. So what happens with
10.
that add to the 28% more already set up. You have a 10% escrow, I believe, and then another, it was like 18 deferred money, and then they request another additional 12, 13%. So that makes,
It's not surprising, though. So does that add it up to 28 or 41?
That's get up now. Additional 13 is 30 41, I think so.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. I mean, I think that was to be expected. The reality is they don't know how many games they're going to play, and there's going to be like a lot less revenue.
Yeah, definitely. That would be something they have to check about that one over there.
For sure. You can't be the player. The way I look at it is you can be the players and think you're just going to get paid. But, their agreement with the NHL is pegged to revenue. So that, they've negotiated, like other leagues, a split of revenue. So, I think for their stance to say, oh, we're not going to take less than 70%. And if the owners are down 50% in revenue, and they're already sharing pretty much 50-50.
So honestly, it's 23% and also 20% escrow.
So 43.
Yeah. So that's save about $1.54 billion if you count all the salary, 80.5 million for 31 team. That make them $1.54 billion. But again, they have a contract of 400 million. You cannot find exactly the contract between Roger TV deal in Canada. It's always been between 300, 500 million dollars.
It's probably a share, right?
Approximately, I would say 400, but the NBC is a $200 million. So it's $6 million there.
Wow.
The one thing I would say, many times you hear about Gary Bettman is really contested, and not people don't like him a lot.
I think he's a good commissioner.
Yeah, I will give you an example what he did. And Sun is this job over there. And 10-11, the league make about $2.9 billion per year. Then the next 2 years, it was jump at at 2.10 at 2.65, and then and 17 18 13 14 they jump at 3.7, 17 18 4.95, and 18 19 $5.09 billion. Since he's this for the last 10 years, he jumped over $3 million, 3 billion more dollars per year of revenues for the owners.
I I think it's really hard to dispute that the game has grown tremendously. I
Yep.
think he's always been willing to innovate. The technology platform is, they partnered with Major League Baseball and they put in the platform that they built, which has turned, I didn't love it at first, but in the end, it's very good. They use SAP for their data, and that's very good. They've developed digital revenues through online streaming, and because of that platform. So he's been innovative that way. I think he's been, I don't think what Brendan Shanahan did to reform the game, to get away from clutch and grab, obstruction, to reduce the amount of, fighting in the league would have happened unless Bettman was there to lead it, because hockey's very old school, right? Like guys get stuck in their ways, and it's a very Me Too sport in the sense that people copycat each other. So you get in this echo chamber, and I think he's provided good leadership.
Yep, I agree with you. I think for the owner's perspective, he's really the man for them, right?
Yeah, but even the fans.
Yeah. So for that part, I think we need to analyze
I
his
think he's really
his
good at the game.
talent for the game over there.
There was a lot of corruption in hockey before. Do we
Yep.
forget this?
Yep.
Like there was so many problems between Alan Eagleson and, whatever you want to say about the previous leadership. He's really changed this league for the better.
We bring a lot about this part over there. Honestly, the big news happening yesterday is the Florida Panthers. I don't know if you follow up with it.
Brett Peterson.
Brett Peterson became assistant general manager. I think at the end of the year 2020, I think the Panthers are going to have more people in the front office on the ice. But that's another subject we can talk about.
Well, they also, what's interesting is they named Tom Bark, and I know him as Thomas Bark.
Yeah.
And this is, this shows how like he became an analytics wizard. And Tom, I don't know if you know, is Korean.
Yep.
So he was like, he's a 1989 born player that played in the GTHL, and he played provincial junior, and he went and he got an NCAA deal of some sort because he's a real smart kid. And now he's 31, and he's an assistant GM as well. So, and Thomas Bark's a real smart analytics guy. And I wasn't aware that, he had rose so quickly. So congrats to him. I mean, I think.
And they hire Rick Dudley.
Rick Dudley's like, to me, I really like Rick Dudley.
And they heard the brother of the guy from the Minnesota Wild get fired, Paul Fenton brother.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So they have 4 people only as a management on fun things about that. So would be very interesting. But at the end of the day, to hire easily become the first, honestly, black man hire in NHL. So that's a really great for the community, and that's why we talk about this. You just mentioned a couple of minutes ago, Michael, about the fact like the NHL has always been great for the community, for the people, for the so they try to bring a lot of different things. And then we need to mention that part over there. A couple of days ago, we mentioned about the first female became general manager for the Florida Marlins in baseball, but that's a good thing what the Florida Panthers do, something like that. And he did not get it because he's a black man.
Well, that's what I wanted to point out too. He was a very successful agent.
Yes, exactly.
So he's not like some guy that's just coming in and it's like, oh, well, you're the guy.
Exactly.
Like, he's legitimately going to be a good assistant general manager, and whatever his future is going to be based on his talent, I hope.
Yeah.
And the same with her. Like when I don't know much about baseball. I don't keep up with much.
You have 30 years in baseball.
That's what I was going to say. She, by all accounts, she's very, very smart, and she's been in baseball a very long time.
She was
an executive, right? So I think, I think what everybody always fears in these scenarios is there's patronage appointments, and I don't think either of these are that.
Yep.
I think those are people that are capable and they're in the games. And that's what you want to see. You want people that are involved in the games and can come in and do a great job so they succeed.
I agree with you about that. So that really, and I applaud the Florida Panther become the first one to do that, and it was really received around the league very well. If you think about what happened in like 15 months ago when Hakim Aliu started that kind of the situation and everything like that. If you remember those story with
Yeah,
him.
I have a differing opinion on that situation. and
No,
it
but my point, like when he start talking about this, you can have you see an elevation, an elevate other subject
for
for
sure.
pay attention, other
Yeah,
player management, and you get a couple of fire coach, everything like that, and that
yeah,
bring attention around this. So that's my point behind that part of
yeah.
it.
I mean,
Um,
listen, I think there's always we want more players in the game, and we want I see. I'll tell you what I see. I scout kids for the last, I would say, the last 3 years, and I see a lot of really talented, for example, Asian American players on the West Coast, and they're very skilled. They play the game right. We've drafted two kids that are awesome, and I just came back from Arizona and I saw kids that traditionally probably wouldn't be in this sport, and man, they're good players. And it doesn't, we want to see kids that are different backgrounds. Like, we'd like to see, and it's not because they're that background, but we just want to make sure that it starts at the kid level. I think it
yep,
starts at the level where minor hockey, we know there's lots of sports and hockey's never Americans' first choice. Um, but I think, we want to make sure that we're getting the best athletes and the best people. And
yep.
we don't care if they're blue.
No, definitely. I think it's a good point about that, and that's good to see that. I want to finish this. We have three subjects before we jump on the flowers. First of all, I just want to be sure everybody be safe. The case of surge more on COVID around here. I'll be honest with you, we cannot play again this weekend. We have players getting now. We hear a couple of players, 12 years old, 10 years old, get it also. So just want to be sure everybody have to be safety, and we would love to play hockey. We would love to be normal. We would love to have that kind of life we have before March 2020. But it is what it is. So the best thing we can do right now, you know what, you be careful if you don't play game anymore, or you on the lockdown, or you're not going to play for a couple of weeks, things like that. You have other things you can do.
Yeah.
You can do skill, develop your skill at home. You can practice at home and watch videos. What online, YouTube. You can watch videos. You can see the game before last year, whatever it is. You have a way to develop your skill. Still, whatever you not play game. And remember, it's always what I think I did a video 2 days ago about. It's not only during the practice, the game you're going to develop. It's what you do between those hours is going to develop you to get better. So we understand. We are really, sad about you cannot play the level, the way you're supposed to be, and maybe all off your possibility to go next level. But you know what? Don't be discouraged. Everything's going to be back. Everything's going to be attention of what you cannot do right now, but keep up your work ethic and stay learning the game whatsoever. You not play game right now during the weekend. So I just want to open up that door because I have like a couple of Massachusetts and New England area and those area they're shutting down a lot of hockey now. I have a lot of players from North coming back in Florida, and now us we are starting for the last 2 weeks now to no, they cancel the game. They cancel the game. Only one case cancel completely the team, shut down the team. So I want to be sure everybody understand to be careful. It's going to be worse for the next couple of weeks, but keep up, stay in the faith, and not be in the fear. And hopefully everything will be back normal after during the 2021. So
I mean, the reality is, if you're young, you're in really good shape. First of all,
yeah,
it's really not a threat to those individuals. We know what the political reaction is to it, and it's to shut things down. And if you're a player, then there's lots, to Pierre's point, you can do off the ice. Work
yeah.
on your shooting, work on your stick handling, do it every day. Shoot your 100 pucks, stick handle for 20 minutes, practice moves that are off ice, get a slide.
It's
Uh,
stay safe.
right? Like you've got to do the things that you can do. It's
Yeah.
obviously tougher to skate, but maybe you can still skate. I think most of the rinks are probably closed, right?
Some here you can
Or
skate, you can do different things, right? But at the end of the day, If you completely lock down at some area in the country,
Yeah,
in Canada, you don't
most places are open.
in Canada, it's over 5 weeks right now in Quebec. They cannot play hockey, not the junior,
It's ridiculous. The
but it's a
reaction
big
to it is
problem.
ridiculous. But
So we have to be sure the kids continue to learn the game to get better, everything like that. And then I want to talk about a situation where it would be really good for Canada have their own division in NHL. Only for, I'm telling you right now, the Rogers TV deal or whatever happened with the TV stuff, it would be skyrocket if the 17 play each other. When you think about
maybe.
Flames,
I mean,
Oilers,
the local rights for the Leafs and the Canadians alone are like
but just think about what happened last year with the Flame, the Oilers, right? You think about what happened with the Oilers and
for sure.
and then you can go with Toronto, with
Vancouver
Montreal, and you can go with Winnipeg. So you can have that kind of rivalities going happening and that skyrocket. And it's the same thing in USA. When you USA have a game between the Flyers and the Penguins, the Pens or Detroit, right, versus the Boston, it's always better to see a team from Edmonton, maybe Vancouver versus Detroit, right? In USA, that's getting more skyrocket for the TV show, TV rating. So I just want to mention that part over there, where I think it will be very interesting to see
Yep.
who's going to finish this, will not be going to make the deal or not about that one over there. I think it's something. I want to give you, finish this one. I have a busy day today, but I want to give you, I'm going to give you 10 teams, and you can name it.
I have to step away for 1 sec. Sorry, I'll let you talk.
No problem. So what we're going to do when Michael is going to go back, I'm going to ask him, I'm going to mention 10 different teams in NHL where most of the experts believe that team's not going to make the playoff, or they're not going to be, they're going to have more chance to win the lottery at the end of the year for the first round pick, overall pick, versus make the playoff. So I have 10 teams on my list. I want to discuss with Michael before before we jump on the Philadelphia Flyers this morning. So very interesting. If you are part and watching live with us, Hockey Nation fans, don't hesitate to ask questions. We're going to hanging there to answer to your question, so we can to helping you about, if you're fans of Philadelphia Flyers, it'll be interesting to having you this morning, or any other fans of other teams. We love to talk about hockey. We love to sharing, and you're part of the show with us. So don't hesitate to ask questions. We got a couple yesterday. It was very interesting to interact with those fans.
Yeah, we love questions. That was really good.
Yeah. So I'm going to give you 10 different teams, and tell me if they will make the playoff, or they will maybe win the lottery for the first overall pick.
Oh boy.
All right. Minnesota Wild.
Oh, I don't think they're making the playoffs.
Okay.
No, I think the asterisk is how good Kaprizov is. So if Kaprizov has an immediate impact, that could switch our opinion, because they still do have pieces like Zuccarello's not done and Parise's not done, and I think they're probably weaker losing Stahl. But
You turn 36.
if Kaprizov is the next Panarin,
Yep.
and they still have very good D, and I don't necessarily love their goaltending, but it was good enough to get Calgary in. So you never know, but I think it's going to be tough.
All right. The next team is going to be the Buffalo Sabres.
They're making the playoffs.
They make it?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, let's look at their moves. You've added Taylor Hall. You've got a second line Stetter and Stahl. They no longer care about Casey Middlestad. Their third line, they have Cody Eakin. And then in net, they've got reasonably good goaltending. Like, I think Olmark's good. Carter Hutton, if he plays more of a backup role, but he's capable. He's not perfect, but he's not going to lose it for you, I don't think. And Dahlin is just going to be so ridiculously good.
How many years did they make the playoff?
A lot. 6 or 8?
9.
9. Wow.
The next thing,
but I think they make it. Like, I think Ralph Kruger's a very good coach, and unless Taylor Hall and Jack Eichel get hurt, they're making it.
Arizona Coyotes.
No way. Wow. I don't think so.
Okay.
I mean, they still have some firepower there, but I just don't. I think that team is an absolute chaos.
Yeah. New Jersey Devils.
I don't think so. Not yet. They made, I don't know, they made some good improvements, but I don't think it's enough. It depends on, again, Heischer. I think you see what Heischer is, and he's not. He's like a 1B. I do not believe Jack Hughes can play center in the NHL. So if they clue into that, then maybe he can increase his production, but he's probably not ready to, lead a team.
Honestly, they could make the playoff.
Good, because they have good goaltending.
It's all about interrogation, right? It's all about if Crawford perform, if Subban perform, if Kaiser perform, if Jack Hughes became the player he's supposed to be a 40.
I think that's the key. I think that Hughes and Heischer, if they're just what they were, then you're not going to make it. I do like the moves he made. I mean, the Andreas Johansson move was really smart. Travis Zajac can still contribute and still a good player. I don't know what's going on with Bratt. I'm assuming they'll sign him. I don't think they have enough firepower up front, though. It really depends on like Gusev, Heischer, and Hughes. What do they become?
Yeah. The next one, Chicago Blackhawks.
They have no goaltending.
That's the biggest problem I have right now with them. Part of it, you can mention like Kane, and we have Jonathan Toews and everything like that. But I think the problem would be like the goalie situation will be a very hard one. So
this is another coach that's like trying to play 1980s fire wagon hockey. That's a young coach, and if you don't have a defensive first system.
Yeah, but at that moment, whatever it is, they don't have no goalie, Michael. Whatever the system.
That's why it's going to be worse.
Yeah,
because you saw even last year, like Crawford held them in and stole them the Edmonton series. They got nobody like that right now.
Yeah, maybe we're going to see Tony Esposito back in the net.
Well, I mean, the hope is that Malcolm Subban becomes what everybody thinks he is, but I just don't think he's that good.
Not at all.
I think he's a career backup, and that's fine. I don't see.
Let's go back a little bit on the West Coast. Anaheim Ducks.
I have such a hard time with that team. I don't like the coaching setup. I think it depends if Trevor Zegras can come in, help out a little bit. I don't think there's an intensity and desire there, but the young guys are very good. I really like, the guys like Sam Steele, I think Max Jones, they have Maxime Comtois, and those guys are just getting better and better every year. I still don't think it's enough. I love the goaltender. The goaltender is world class. I don't think it's enough to get him in the playoffs.
Next one, San Jose Sharks.
They should be back in the playoffs. There's absolutely no reason. If they're healthy, that team should be in the playoffs. But, I mean, was it an aberration? They've moved on from Thornton. Couture, Hurdle, and Meyer are the guys. But are those guys healthy? Those are players that have injury issues. Can Erik Karlsson adjust his game, or is he just going to do whatever the hell he wants? And he's got injury problems.
But John did not, many of the star or the big guy last season did not play the level they're supposed to play. So that's something so hopefully they will be back. If they are back like they're supposed, if Erik Karlsson dominates the league with
you got to look at the injuries on that team.
Yeah.
Now the depth is also a problem. But I think they have enough up front. If they're healthy, you can't rely on Patrick or on Evander Kane to be your guy. But he can still get you 25, 30 goals.
Yeah.
In the end, it's about Hurdle, Meyer, and Couture. And if they are not healthy, they're in trouble.
All right. Next one, Los Angeles Kings.
No, not yet.
Not ready with you. Ottawa Senators.
Absolutely not.
And finally, number one, the Detroit Red Wings.
No.
Okay.
I don't think they're ready yet.
Team, right? So the question was, to be sure we understand, was not about it was 10 teams where we expect them not to be like between 20 to 30. One of the 10 can slip around. And I really believe the New Jersey Devils, the Buffalo Sabres,
those are the two.
Maybe Minnesota Wild. That's maybe there what I'm thinking, 1, 2, and 3. I don't see any other about that one over there. So good stuff over there. But now we have to move on and finishing the daily show very quickly. So let's go move on with you and talking about the one team. Um, first of all, they are surprised a lot of team last season. They have an amazing year with LA Vigneault behind the bench, and three
Everybody behind
new
the
head coach can coach any team in NHL. Michel Terrien and
Mike
Mike
Yo.
Yo. So you cannot complaining about the staff they have over there, and that prove what they did.
Oh,
Uh, Nobody expect that part of it. I was still question about their defensemen. For me, it's really where I believe they have to. And just before you start, just mention the cap situation with them is still at $4.8 million. And the only thing, Michael, I want to be sure is for the fans to understand they have only signed right now 19, and the minimum is 20. And the funny thing, they have already contract 46 on 50 contract give
the Flyers.
the Flowers, yes.
Yeah, we'll take a look at it. I guess that's interesting.
So that would be
Well,
very interesting about that one over there. I have a couple of players I would love to talk when you have a chance about that.
yeah,
And
sure.
the last thing before you jump is two things I want to mention. Finally, they don't have to pay anymore Brice Galov, but they have to still to pay almost $2 million to Andrew McDonald, the
Oh,
defenseman.
the defenseman they bought out.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was not a good contract. They had to move on from that.
The
So.
funny thing I want to mention this, but before you jump, it's just like I'm just laughing. They still own $600,000 at David Schlemko.
Wow, really?
Yeah,
Wait, did he sign a? He must have signed like a $3 million contract or
I,
something.
I think it was a contract what he got with the Montreal or something like
Right.
that.
That's what it probably was. I can't remember that. I'll have to look up that deal.
Yeah, he signed a contract like for 4 years, $2.1 million with a team, and then New Jersey Devil.
Sure.
Right, he went to Montreal for 2 years, and last year, for some reason, he did not play for Philadelphia in 0 game. He played with AHL.
The
And
Phantoms, or
so very interesting about that one over there. I just mentioned that part is maybe our subject, but I was like surprised to see his name over there because he did not do very well with Montreal Canadiens. So let's
he's
go on. Let's go rock and roll that piece, my friend.
okay. So I will first start off saying Chuck Fletcher is the general manager. He brought in Alain Vigneault. The assistant coaches are head coaches, and Michel Terrien and Mike Yo, as you mentioned. So they probably have the deepest bench in the NHL. It's insane. Chuck Fletcher, formerly the general manager in Minnesota, made some moves to improve that team, but they never could get over the hump. I will say that this team has Ron Hextall's fingerprints all over it. And it's taken very minor tinkering by Chuck Fletcher to get where they're at. And if you look at the moves on this team and the young talent that's coming up, it is an absolute testament to Ron Hextall. That includes their star goalie, Carter Hart, who formerly was from where? The Everett Silvertips. So we had drafted, and he was our number one goalie, and man, it's superstar goaltender, and he has a legacy with us and a great person off the ice, and on the ice, he's an absolute stud. Travis Konechny, we saw last year take another step in his development. And I don't know if you know much about Travis, but Travis was the first overall draft pick in the OHL. So when he was picked later in the first round by the Flyers, that has turned out to be an absolute steal because he's pretty much a point a game player now. So he's always been top of his age group and a top talent, and that's translated to the NHL. He's a smaller guy, but he's highly talented and he's impactful. We see in the offseason they re-signed Brian Elliott as the backup, which I think is a good deal for Elliott. He played reasonably well, but his save percentage I think was a little low. Eric Gustafsson, the defenseman that was traded from Chicago, signs a free agent contract. We know that he's capable of contributing 35 to 45 points. He's had 55 point season, but I don't believe that. I think it's more like he's like a 7-8 goal guy, and he'll contribute on the second power play. We know that the absolute star of this team, in my opinion, is Ivan Provorov. And we knew as soon as he was drafted, this guy's going to be a star. He was a star in the WHL. And I think that what you're seeing is his supreme talent, his understanding of the game, and he's only going to get better. And so he's going to eventually, at some point, I believe, be in the discussion for Norris Trophy, just the way that Carter Hart is in the discussion for the Vezina. Travis Sanheim has busted through, and he's a legitimate top 3 defenseman in the NHL, another WHL player, 6'3", skates well, contribute a little bit offensively. Philippe Myers was an absolute free agent, never drafted, signed by the Hextall regime, 6'5", really good skating defenseman who can contribute a little bit offensively. He's a top 4 defenseman. So again, lots of talent. And, we know they loaded up on these D at one point under Hextall, and it was just going to take time. Robert Hagg is a legitimate top 5 defenseman, maybe top 4. So they have 4 really good defensemen that have come up that they've either signed or drafted. Morgan Frost. Morgan Frost was the leading scorer in the OHL. So they go back to the OHL. So he's probably ready to stick, I'm guessing, in a second, third line type role. He's a highly talented, smaller player, like 5'10", 5'11", but very much like Konechny, has high offensive talent. Joel Farabee, the USA Hockey, development program player, we saw in the playoffs, this guy is super fast and super talented. And it's only a matter of time before he's, a contributing top 6 player. He may not be ready for that role, but he's an excellent talent. The thing that hurts them is this Nolan Patrick situation, another WHL player, 2nd draft pick overall. For most teams, this would have probably killed them, not having this guy being able to play due to they're saying it's not concussion, but the symptoms are very similar to concussion. My concern with Nolan was always injuries before he was drafted, because he had injury problems in the WHL. His dad played in the NHL, Stephen Patrick, and he had a career that was derailed by injuries. So it was always my concern with him, and I don't know what it is. He's a big, talented player, and if he ever gets back on track and can resume his career, this guy is going to be a phenomenal player. But in the meantime, it's really unknown. He skates, but he's not able to resume normal play yet. So that's been a long time. I think it's been 18 months. I will mention another Everett Silvertip that's in the system, which is Wyatt Wiley. He was drafted last year in the 4th or 5th round, maybe 6th. He's a defenseman that plays with the Everett Silvertips in the WHL. He's also the first player to come out of the Everett Tier 1 program and play in the WHL. Wyatt's a real tough defenseman. He can really shoot the puck. His skating needs to improve to play at the NHL level. I project him more probably be AHL, but he'll play somewhere. If he can improve his skating and tempo, then he could be a decent 5'6" in the NHL. There's one player I was going to mention, which is Isaac Radcliffe. I don't think his transition was as smooth as people thought. This was a big 6'5" forward that played in the OHL, scored 50 goals. His game is not really translated to the pro, so I think he's got a lot of work. He's a little bit raw. But overall, you've got to say, they've got a lot of depth. The signing of Kevin Hayes, who had a previous relationship with Alain Vigneault in New York. He's a real good leader. He's a big 6'5" centerman. He can win faceoffs. He can contribute offensively, and they need him to go. And we still see Sean Couturier has evolved into an amazing 2-way player who can also score goals. So originally we thought this guy's going to be a 3rd-line checking center, but he's definitely shown he can play top-line minutes. Voracek, when he was out, you see they're a very different team without him. He's getting older, but he's still a very effective, very, very talented right winger that can set up teammates, and he can score a little bit. James Van Riemsdyk does what James Van Riemsdyk does. He plays 15 minutes a game and scores goals, and then is a bit of a defensive liability. Claude Giroux, though, is the big question mark. His numbers in the regular season look good, but we know what happened in the playoffs. He was horrible. He was not able to find the back of the net. He played a perimeter game. We don't know if he was hurt or what the situation was. But, not good news if you're a Flyers fan, if this guy can't regain his form a little bit. It's not that you expect him to be the Giroux of 4 or 5 years ago, or when they went up against the Pittsburgh Penguins in those legendary playoff series against Sidney Crosby. At least he's got to be what he was in the regular season. He can't be a guy that gets 10, 15 goals. And if he is, he's not going to be playing top minutes. That Matti Niskanen was a surprise where he retired. So that was a little bit of a surprise, I think, on the roster. I will mention Oscar Lindblom. We know his battle with cancer, and then he came back and played in the playoffs. So there's hope that he can resume because he was on a really good tear there, and he looked like he was breaking through. He had 11 goals in 30 games. So even if he can resume and get 15, 20 goals, then they're looking at him as a second line winger. But that I think that time will tell just based upon his prior situation with the cancer treatment. And then we know the real story around goaltending was Carter Hart. So Carter, 24 wins, 13 losses, 914 save percentage, 242 goals against average. So those are definitely top 15 numbers. And I don't know, I watch him and I think he's legitimately a top 7 or 8 goaltender in the NHL, and he's going to be in the Norris Trophy consideration going forward. Again, we look at their draft history. They've got a lot of talent in the pipeline. If we just look at this past draft, they draft Tyson Forrester from the Barrie Colts. Tyson probably needs to work on his skating a little bit, but he's a big power forward that can score. And we saw when they traded Ryan Suzuki from Barrie to Saginaw that Forrester got a lot more ice time, and he looked great. They have another young star there, which is Clark, and he's projected to go top 4 in the next year's NHL draft. So Barrie's going to be a real good young team, and they're going to be relying on Tyson Forrester if they have a season. I don't know much about Emil Andre, but Zaid Wisdom signed his entry-level contract, and he's a pretty good player for Kingston. He's got some ability, so it'll be interesting to see his development. Excuse me, talking too much. Last year they drafted Cam York, which is the son of Jason York, another U.S. development player, very good skating defenseman. He's just going to take some time, but at some point he should be a top 4 in the NHL, I would think. Bobby Brink is a pretty talented forward, so he's got potential maybe in the future. Joel Farabee, we know, has already busted through, and man, he looked really good in the playoffs. So you got to think he's just going to over time get better and better. We talked about Nolan Patrick. Luckily, they had another first-round pick that year in Morgan Frost, who is developing really well and should be a full-time player this coming season. Isaac Ratcliffe, we mentioned, needs a lot more time, but he's got to find that goal-scoring touch that was the epitome of his OHL career with Guelph. I don't think Rubstov's going to punch through at this point. He seems like he's a back-and-forth player, and you got to think at some point that doesn't work out. But you can see that the years under Ron Hextall with Ivan Provorov, Travis Konechny, Travis Sanheim, Nicholas Aubé-Kubel, even Oscar Lindblom, who was a 5th-round pick.
Talking about Rostov, he's at 5 points right now in 19 games and with Sushi. Sushi?
Oh, so is that in the KHL?
No, it's S.
Oh, the Swedish League?
Yeah, I think so. Hold on. No, KHL. I'm sorry. KHL is Sushi HC. I was said H, yeah.
Oh, yeah. The one guy that, they keep holding hope for is Samuel Morin, who doesn't seem to be able to get his health together, but he's a big 6'7" defenseman.
Will never back that level.
I don't think so.
It's a Michael McCarron situation where he gets 6'5", 6'6", 6'7", and their skating is really poor.
Yep.
Late. And for him, sad because he could be, we have the potential to be a great Zeph Jones, I would say to you, because he's.
You think so? I never really thought him that good, but.
Oh yeah, well, like I'm talking about the prototype player, like big guy, go long, sick, and or maybe Tyler Myers, maybe the best thing I can mention.
Yeah, that's what I kind of thought. It was more like a lowercase Tyler.
I've never been that kind of player, unfortunately.
Yep, that makes more sense. I mean, Seth Jones is pretty elite. I don't think he was ever in that category, but he definitely should be a top 5 NHL defenseman. And he's got a lot of attributes, but he's just had real trouble with health. And then, of course, his skating, right? Robert Hagg, we know, has turned out very good. Scotty Lawton has turned out very good for this team. Shane Gostabert, I just think that his time is limited here. We know Couturier has turned out. So overall, if you look,
NHL players, sometimes their career is about 5 years, right? 3 to 5 years. And he had 2 years good back to back. If you remember, he was maybe Like he was really good at some point. Like you think about 17, 18, he has 65 point. You know,
Yeah.
like 46, 39, and 65 point. Then after that, he's getting badly. You
He's
know,
just a serious defensive liability. I mean, and with the talent that's come up, like they can't have that. And there's no way Vigneault and Terrien are going to put up with that.
I, I agree with you. He's not a solid player they likes, and I don't. I think his days over there is very.
Yeah, I think so. If you look at the cap situation, they have all their picks coming up, so they're fine there, and they've done a great job of picking wherever they are. Let's see if we can zoom out a little bit. Is that a little better? There we go. So, we see Giroux. He's at 825, 827. Jakub Voracek, 827. Let's fix this a little bit. There we go. Kevin Hayes at 7 million feels a little bit high, but for what he does to the team, I understand. James Van Riemsdyk, this has got to be a contract that they address because you can't have. I was very surprised when they signed him from the Leafs because if you watch him and they had him before they drafted him, you know what this guy is. He'll score you 20, 25 goals, but you're going to hate him away from the puck, and you can't play him 5
Yeah, the 4 years in Toronto, you have 27, 14, and 40 games. Then you have 29 goals. So and 36 prior last year. Prior to this, you have 27 goals, and so he can score about.
He can score.
He can score about 25, 30 goals. So in this league, at that kind of money, he has usually to get one. You know what I mean? 7 million at that moment, I think
it's not horrible, but I think the problem, Pierre, for me is look at how many minutes the guys play.
But again, it's like, sometimes players get reputation, right? Like they get like, league, about Phil Kessel, right? How many people like Phil Kessel?
Well, I think there's some similarities. I think I don't think anybody dislikes James Van Riemsdyk. I think the issue with James Van Riemsdyk is he's not a hardworking player necessarily, and he's not great away from the puck. He's horrible away from the puck. So you can't play him a regular 5-on-5 shift in the top 6.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, they produce what he's supposed to be scoring.
Yeah, for sure. That's what I'm saying. He's like a Cy Young player, right? He's going to get
you will see at the end of the game, you will remember more Gallagher and Martian.
For sure, because they can chew up minutes.
And then you never see, GVR score 1 or 2 goals, and you don't remember because he's not give you any high flashlight or lights and everything. I say, oh my God, he did amazing stuff right there. It's not a time we got, but he get their job done. I cannot blame him. But honestly, I know them because honestly, Bria told me all the time, he's not a guy that work the most, work it all the time. So he's like that. But again, he can play 2 games, you don't see him at all. And then the next 2 games, you see him all around with 2, 3 goals.
Yeah, he's what he is. I mean, I think it's got to be tough, especially in COVID era, to think that you're going to keep paying this guy for 3 more years, 7 mil. You know he's going to get the goals he gets, and maybe you need those on the board.
Yep.
What I will say is when he came back from injury in the playoffs, I was like, holy crap, who's this player? Like, he looked great. And if he would play like that all the time, you've got a damn good player. So he's capable.
Yep.
I don't know. He's just in a comfort zone. Travis Konechny, to me, man, he could be the best forward in this team very shortly. Sean Couturier is up there. So if those are your top 2 players, if those were actually the contracts you just had to worry about at 5.5 and 4, and all this other stuff was gone, but you don't have anything underneath, so that's not going to work. Lindblom, we hope that he can resume the pace that he was at because he was looking like he was going to be a 25, 30 goal scorer. I really like Scotty Lawton. He's tough. He plays 2 ways and he can score. He's a throwback. He's a player that he'll get you goals when you need it and you don't expect it. And then he'll shut you down on the PP or he'll crush you in the boards.
Yep.
Kubel looks good. Provorov is the real. I mean, at 6'7", he's got how many years left? A lot. That is a friggin' steal, Pierre.
Which one?
He's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years left at 6.7.
Yeah.
Like that's such a good contract. That's equivalent to the Nathan McKinnon contract.
Yeah.
Gostabert is going to go away at some point, but he still has 3 years at 4 or 5. It's not unmanageable, but at some point you've got to think he's not going to be able to dress regular. You've got Sanheim against ahead of him. You've got Gustafsson, Braun, Hag, and Myers. To me, they're all way ahead of him. So I don't know what they do. At some point, do they buy him out? They're not going to be able to move him. I don't see that. Unless Ottawa needs a defenseman. But I think Ottawa is going to be pretty good pretty fast in the next year or two, so they won't want to. Brian Elliott at 1.5 as a backup is solid. Carter Hart, 1 more year on his entry-level deal. This guy you think is going to got to get big money.
You know what is very interesting about that? They don't have other fact Brian Elliott, right? He's the goalie's backup, and you stay there because they like him. He's a good guy. He's good. But think about this. Anybody is over 33 years old.
No, they're pretty. They have a lot of players in their prime. Like they're in good shape.
Young team. They are not like old team. Like Trey Weber or you have like
they'll get old, but they're going to get old quick, but not that old because the young guys that are coming up are.
Really, I think they're very good on contracts.
They're overall pretty good, right?
Yeah, you don't pay anybody over $9 million, and they presume are pretty good about that one over there. And they have a really good contract with Konechny and Sean Couturier at 4.3 is almost like what is McKinnon at 6.5.
Yeah, it's a steal.
It's a steal over there. And I think you just mentioned Provorov at 6.7 for 5 years. It's another great. He's going to get better and better and better. So
he's so good already, and he's going to get better.
The only thing I would say to you, the problem on that list is only Gustafsson at 4.5. That's the only bad contract I would mention to you. Yeah. Where, oh my God, this is a really bad one. The rest is not too bad at all. Manageable. They have to sign one more player. We expect like Philip Myers going to be his RFA is going to sign up very soon, for sure. They get their 7th deal over there. They have the forward over there. And when you look about the situations to see what's going to happen with Nolan Patrick is really where the one really to see really what to get at. I don't see anything about Samuel Morin to pick up to see about the league over there. We still remember they still have $2.5 million dead money. And then on the bottom where you can see the rookies, if you do that, I think
Morgan Frost is real cheap. Like he's gonna play. Forster is a couple years away.
The best player you can see right now there on that list is really Morgan Frost.
Oh yeah.
It's really the one really I said, oh, this guy is going to be the one should be with that team next season. Defensively, I don't see really great, like, something like, really good. Who said they don't have nothing for goalies to pick it up what they have. So overall,
I think all right. So here's my feeling on the D. All the young D have graduated. They've all turned out. They've done a phenomenal job drafting and developing these guys. So then you look at what do they have in the minors? Nate Prosser. How many games has that guy played in the NHL? Quite a bit. Chris Begris, we know, is like a 5, 6, 7 type guy, but he's capable of playing in the NHL if you need him. Derek Pouliot, if you're stuck, you can play him. Wotherspoon, so these guys are guys that can flex up when you have injuries. But we know who they have 7 guys ahead of them.
Yep.
So
they are pretty good on that one over there. They have solid goalies. You have a really good top 9 over there, and they are really good 4 or 5 good defensemen. This team is really good. I believe they could be easy a top 10 in the NHL. They have a good future. You never know what could happen, but I think this is really solid team.
Yep. At some point, you've got to say that Carter Hart gets them through to a Stanley Cup final, and then you see what happens. Because he is the type of goalie where he will steal game after game, and you'll get points in the playoffs that you don't deserve, but you win it anyway. And that is rare.
They still have a lot of they still have money to pick it up another player where they solidify their team.
If they had to, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
That would be very interesting to get. They can maybe get a good defenseman or they can add another forward where
Yeah,
they, you know what I mean?
I
Maybe not
agree.
Hoffman, but he can get another one over there for the third line. Solid
So
player.
here's one I was thinking about, which I don't know how he would fit in. It really depends on Morgan Frost. But you think of who drafted Miguel Granlund. It
Yeah,
was Chuck Fletcher.
but the problem with Granlund, like you pay him what, $4 million? What do you put him? Third line?
I don't know if you're going to pay him that though. I think it really, that's why I say it really depends to me on Morgan Frost and Lindblom. So they have two question marks. Can Lindblom regain his form? And is Morgan Frost ready to take on the offensive load? If they're not, you could sign a Granlund and know what you're going to get. He's going to get 15 to 20 goals with this team on the wing, or he can pick up minutes at center.
The one we don't talk yet, I think, is the kid he's really surprised is really Joel Farabi.
He's so good.
So you have to give him like he can score. He
He
can
can score. He's
You know what I
fast.
mean? So we'll be interesting about that one over there. It really is the thing we are going to see on the power ranking. We're going to start that. Would be very interesting about that one.
Imagine Nolan Patrick can actually regain.
Yeah.
I mean, if that happened, this team's they're a Stanley Cup final team.
So if you have Patrick there, Mark and Frost, it changed everything like that.
Totally.
You know what I mean? And then you have a solid goal. No, it's a really when you see all the team we did so far, they are the top five about structure and about players as a roster.
So who do you give credit to?
Um, you know what I mean? Like if you look about a little bit deeper, right? You have to go all the way, Michael, to 2000, 6 Giroux, right? Then you have funny, but GVR get drafted by the Flyers, if
Yeah.
no one over there, 2007, right? And then after that, you have to go all the way to Shane Couturier and 11, Scott Laughton 12, right? Then you have Robert Hank 13 with Samuel Morin. Then you have Sanham and Kubel and 14, and then you have Provorov and Konechny and 15. And what you realize now here is year after year they produce a great draft player.
That's the thing. And so Ron Hextall became first of all, Ron Hextall was an assistant GM for the Kings.
Yep.
So he was very instrumental in building that group up. Then you look, he comes over in 2014. So his first draft is Travis Sanheim, Obey Kubel, Mark Friedman, who's in the system, and Lindblom.
Yeah.
Like the guy hits it out of the park with a first, second, third, and fifth round draft pick.
Yeah.
Next year, he gets Provorov, Konechny, and by the way, if you recall, he was dealing with the Brizgalov thing. He was jettisoning salary. So he's trying to restructure horrible deals that the prior GM, which is the guy that eventually fired him, if I'm not mistaken, right? Paul Holmgren remained as like VP or executive VP, and I think he was pretty instrumental in moving Chuck Fletcher in and Ron Hextall out. So
Bobby Clark is still in there.
and Bobby Clark is still in there. So it's a weird situation. The next draft year, he drafts Carter Hart, which really saves that draft because Rubstov is really not panned out. Nolan Patrick, Morgan Frost, Isaac Radcliffe, and this goalie, Kirill Ustamenko, is like legit. So he's done a great job. And Farabee, O'Brien might pan out.
You know, they cannot be perfect all the time, right?
No, but he's done a great job.
Philadelphia won right now. They did very good on draft. And, 2020.
Signed Philippe Myers.
So they did very good about that. And then they get a couple of trade. They get a couple of players left and right. But most of them, they are coming from the organization. That's what is really impressive about that part over there. So
I don't know. I project them right now. I kind of put these posts in. I think there's obviously question marks like most lineups, but you've got to project them at close to a 100-point team.
Yeah.
Maybe higher. It really depends on if they can get some more goals that I'm projecting, then great.
I agree with you. Great show today. That's amazing.
Yeah, it's fun to look at that team. So tomorrow we have what, Pittsburgh?
Yep. Tomorrow we're going back with the Pittsburgh Penguins again. That'll be another interesting team right there. A lot of change, like a couple of days ago, a couple of weeks ago. So it'll be interesting about that.
Yeah, they're retooling yet again for one more run, right?
Yep, exactly. And so that's another great day, Michael. Thanks again to bring those informations inside about the Flyers. And unfortunately, Hockey Nation fans, we still on the hold to see what's going to happen. But I believe the next 7, 10 days, we should know more about really what's going to happen in 2020, 2021.
But
Pronostic, what I heard a lot is 60 games, 6-0 game. That's what I
good.
heard about. Yep. So we'll be ready.
I think if you have a U.S. Canada divide, then for sure. If they figure something else out, then I think the owners want to get
99.9. It's a division Canadian,
Yeah,
and
I think you're right.
three division over there with 8 bubble location, I believe. I don't think so because it's going to be worse and worse. So we'll see what happens. Thanks again, everybody, to be here. Look forward to seeing you tomorrow. It's 11 o'clock Eastern time. Have a great one, Michael.
Thanks, Pierre. You too.